What's up, Thrashers? And welcome back to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and how appropriate. The channel name, the introduction, a terrible segue into this review that I got for you here tonight. This is one of the most anticipated albums of the year when it was announced back in the summer. Because it's been 7 years. 7 long years since this band has put out an album, and here we are with Bay Area thrash pioneers and legends Exodus with their album Persona Non Grata. So, brief little history lesson of Exodus for the 5 people, and you're all idiots. Exodus started in late 1979, starting off as more of a hard rock metal band before they would eventually become one of the founding fathers, along with bands like Overkill and Metallica, for thrash metal. And you know, Kirk Hammett being the founding guitarist, and he would eventually, just a few years later, go on to join Metallica. But besides the point, they were on a roll between, like, mid-80s through to the early 90s. Then they hit some bumps on the road in the mid-90s through a rather questionable album with Force of Habit, and then lineup changes, small breakups. And then from 2004 to present day, they had been on a roll, pumping out consistent albums since Tempo of the Damned. Even though, like I said, it's been 7 years since Blood In, Blood Out came out, and I think I reviewed that album. I'm not sure, I'm pretty positive I did, but if I didn't, oh well. But it's been 7 years, and we still pretty much have the same lineup. Steve Zetro Sousa on vocals, Lee Altus and Gary Holt on guitars, Tom Hunting on drums, as it just went dark for me for a second, and Jack Gibson on bass, who I believe Jack Gibson does the production on this album because he's gotten very good with Pro Tools over the years. But aside from all that, let's get to the album. So we kick things off with the title track, Persona Non Grata, starting out with some fury right off the bat. The riffs are just frantic. Even gets borderline hardcore black metal a little bit because of just how fast they're playing the D beat. Not quite to like a death metal or grindcore blast beat, but maybe to like a black metal blast beat. You'll get what I mean when you hear the song and that beat. But Zetro's voice going everywhere from highs to almost gritty gutturals, not in the death metal sense, but like in the grittiness of his voice. Then again, his voice echoes to like Bon Scott of AC/DC at times, and Bobby Blitz Ellsworth from Overkill. It's kind of like a combination of those two, the way I hear it. Love the bass line around the 2-minute mark of the song to just keep that heavy rhythm section going. The solo goes everywhere from the Slayer-style squealy dive bombs where you're taking the whammy bar and just going crazy while fretting as fast as you can. But then there's parts where it has some feeling to it, which I prefer that over just constant squealy dive bombs unless the song warrants that vibe when it's chaotic, which I'll say the song had a bit of a chaotic nature to it, and it was a solid opener. Then we get to REMF, or Rear Echelon Motherfuckers. Definitely starting out with a more straightforward thrash beginning to this song, and I love when it's straightforward thrash because it just gets your heart pumping and gets you want to just go out and just beat some people up. First solo on this song has more. I love that first solo that shows up in the song after the first chorus, and it definitely had more feel to it, but then the second solo that shows up immediately after showcases a little more technical execution to kind of show to the world that, hey, Gary and Lee, they know how to play solos just as good as any technical wizardry guitarist out there. They can go head-to-head with some of those people. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. But yeah, and I love the old-school riff that follows the second solo, and it kind of echoes back to like a riff I would hear off of Bonded by Blood or even Pleasures of the Flesh. Like, it has that old-school vibe to it. And then Zetro, at the very end, his voice is getting higher and higher and higher. Not to, like, King Diamond levels, but higher than you would usually associate with Zetro. Slipping in the Madness was one of my personal favorites of the album. Starts out kind of groove-oriented with the riffs and the beats, but then it gets into some thrashiness right off the bat afterwards. Give me a second. And the chorus was catchy and memorable. One of the more catchy and memorable choruses of the entire record. Love how it goes back to that grooviness of the beginning of the song, but the bass having more prominence. And again, we get dueling solos. We got the first solo that has more of that technicality latched on, and then we get another solo that has more feel, but yet a tinge of melody in there too, which I like when bands experiment with melodic solos. Following up after that is the track Elitist, and the riffs definitely crunch along on this one, even some hardcore inspired drums and riff build-ups before the vocals would come in on each verse. I thought though that the chorus was a little bit too simplistic and minimalistic for my taste. However, the solo was a perfect combination of technicality and feel, prescribing more melodic start to this track before it starts to build itself up into a nice groove. And I love how after all the verses heading into the chorus, it turns slightly sinister at times, like the riffs just get a little more evil sounding before it would go back to the heavy, and then it just gets evil, then back to the heavy, evil, and so on and so forth. Even Zetro's voice would even get grittier during the choruses. Even a spoken word section can be heard after the second chorus to just add on to that sinister atmosphere that this song is able to project. And then the ending with like crying babies and the bass getting into a nice riff as it's fading out to add a little bit of creepiness to it, so to speak. Then we get to another one of my favorites off of the album. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Weird counting to start off before the drums just come in full swing and the riff coming through while hearing some guitar squeals to just add to the chaos. High energy immediately afterwards, as this was the fastest track so far of the album, and I think it still was the fastest. The lyrics on this track stand out, going everywhere from horror, gore, violence, just bleh. And I love the solo on this song once more, just the shred that's going on in the solos here is just... Then we get to the Years of Death and Dying, which, again, we're crunchy riffs beyond crunchy riffs, and they stay crunchy all throughout. However, I noticed while reading the lyrics to this song, there are a lot of song and band references. Mostly band references, like there's references to Queen and Prince, Motorhead, Metallica, Van Halen, Rage, AC/DC, David Bowie, The Eagles, Rush, even a little nod to Power Trip with the phrase Gale, and Slayer. So many like band references in the lyrics if you read them. And it's heavy yet catchy, this song. And I love the trade-off solos going on between Gary and Lee once again. Definitely one of the catchiest songs of the album for me, and definitely one that stands out for me. Then we get to, I think this was the first single off of the album, Clickbait. Furious thrash to begin the onslaught that is this song. And again, reading along with the lyrics, calling out the dumb modern age of clickbait on YouTube and even internet articles about anything you can think of. Politics, movies, music, television, whatever. And how you should not take things by face value. That you should do your damn research before you decide to act stupid. But anyways, moments with the riffing and the drum fills kind of echo moments of Sodom and Creator, and even the breakdown was kind of Creator-esque to me. And even Zetro almost goes a bit death metal in his vocals at the end. Not quite, but it was reaching to that point. Casa del Pontano, the Spanish-inspired acoustic instrumental, before it leads directly into Lunatic Liar Lord, continuing that kind of Spanish-inspired acoustic guitars. And then it transitions into the electric guitars as it gets thrashy real fast. Again, the vocals, Zetro getting downright gritty, It slows down into more of that Spanish-inspired melody before it gets into a 3/4 breakdown. And then that whole breakdown goes between 3/4 and 4/4. And then afterwards it gets back to more of the meat and potatoes thrash before an awesome solo comes in. And after a nice little riff, more trade-offs going on. Although this time we get a guest spot from Rick Hinault, one of the old members of Exodus, showing up to do a guest solo spot on here, which was a really cool nod. And again, and also reading along with the lyrics and the themes of this song kind of reminds me of something Nunslaughter would do. I don't know, I guess I'm just still into that new Nunslaughter album that just kind of made me think of that. The penultimate track, Fires of Division, more crunchy riffs while the drums are going nuts with the double bass. And yeah, there was some random guitar moments, but more solo trade-offs going on in this song. Yeah, definitely this song was a bit more speed metal inspired. Not quite super duper thrash, more speed metal inspired. You'll get what I mean, especially with the drum beats. And then the final track, Antecede. Another great melodic start to the track with the guitars and the bass going to town with the bass line. It's thrash and furious time, mostly throughout this track. Another memorable chorus, and even a memorable pre-chorus as well. Once again, the riffs just crunch along, and the solo that shows up goes everywhere, from the squealy dive bombs to feeling to technicality and melody. Like, this solo just went all out in terms of like every tool in the toolbox in guitar solos that Exodus are able to project. And that was a cool way to end the album. So overall, I thought the production on this album was actually really nice. Again, Andy Sneap mixing, and I love Andy Sneap's production. Crucify me if you will. Cool gang vocals, background vocals, I think mostly done by Zetro's kids, a good friend of mine, Cody Sousa, and Nick Sousa. So Zetro's kids did a great job with the gang vocals, backing vocals, all throughout the album. While a couple of the choruses, particularly in the song Elitist, might have been a bit too hokey and minimalistic to me, a lot of the riffs on here are just crunchy and memorable. Some vocal moments are memorable. There's a lot of great things going on in this album. Holy shit. Now, is it the best thrash album of 2021? Me, personally, it's not the best thrash album. For me, that's still Evil. But this is still a fucking amazing album. If I'm going to give this a score, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think this is a fantastic album, and one I might actually pick up. Because, like I said, there's lots of great moments that happen throughout the album. While out of all the Bay Area bands, Exodus has never been my #1 favorite. They're certainly up there in terms of the best that the Bay Area has to offer. And this album certainly proves that even at their age, they can still thrash with the best of them, even the young kids coming up right now or have been around for a little bit. But what did you guys think of Persona Non Grata by Exodus? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, horns high. See you soon.
What the heck is fellatio?
Cole, out of all the people in here, you should know what that is.
Every time I'm soft, I try to have a shine.
Is it a new way to torture people?
A little too friendly.
No.
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Okay, I'm looking it up.
Every time
Are you looking at the whole thing or just the fellatio part?
Oh wait, so fellatio is stimulation of the penis? Really?
Thanks for letting me know that. I might pick that card now.
Cole. It's another name for a blowjob.
Okay. Every time
I thought it was a dick
It's a
punishment.
deep throat blowjob.
Alright, here we go. Okay.
Moving on.
Sounds like Carson's getting one right now.
God damn.